The Money Show.
Personal Finance with Warren Ingram.
Warren Ingram, as you know, is a certified financial planner at Galileo Capital. And tonight we are talking about sports betting. And Warren's sort of headline to it is that sports betting is not investing, it's a tax on hope. As always, good to hear from you tonight. 011 883 0702 021 446 0567. And voice notes might be easier. 072 702 1702. Warren, good evening. Sports betting is not investing, it is a tax on hope. Very interesting statement to start.
It's one of those things when we talk about sports betting that I think is quite polarizing, and I guess it's always our job to be balanced. So I don't think it's a case of saying to people, don't do this, it's terrible for you, it's always bad. It's a case of saying, like any entertainment which costs money, and that's what it is to me, it's entertainment. It should be treated carefully and it should be understood. And if you're going to use your money, use it with knowledge and understanding. And if you understand that it's entertainment, then hopefully my statement makes a little bit more sense. It's not investing. This isn't a way that you're going to get yourself out of financial trouble. You should treat this in exactly the same way as you would treat, going to have a coffee or anything else. It might give you some enjoyment for a period of time, but after that, the money's gone and you carry on with your day. If you're using this as a way of kind of deploying money in the anticipation that you're going to get yourself out of trouble, which is, I think, what does happen from time to time, then it is a tax on hope. You cannot hope that you get yourself out of financial trouble with a bet. It's just not. That's not how the entire industry works, and it would be the same with gambling. You're not there to make money every single time. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a sports betting industry.
Okay, part of this is about the idea that I know what is going to happen. So I know the Springboks are playing on Saturday, and I know there'll be another red card. Okay, that kind of feeling. I'll just use that example as a slightly silly example. There's a kind of a feeling of control. I mean, is that part of this?
It is, and I'm one of those. It seems like very rare people that doesn't appreciate the sport of soccer. But my office is full of Man United fans. Can you believe it? And some of them have been fans since they were 5 or 6 years old, and they're now 40. And they would argue that they are Man United experts, and they know Man United better than anybody else in the world. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but if I ask them before the weekend's games who's going to win, it's almost inevitable that it's Man United, and they'll give me some fantastic reasons why. And if that was true, that their team was going to win every single time they played, then Man United would be an unbeaten team for the last 30 years, and history tells you that's simply not true. So what we realize is that fans, people who are committed to a sport or a team, they believe they have a special edge because they have been watching their team, glued as fans for years and years and years, and so they know better than anybody else what their team's going to do, and somehow, surprisingly, it lands on the side of positive in most instances, and so they translate that faith and, dare I say, hope into sports betting. They're willing to bet money on their team because they have insight. They feel they know better than everybody else what's going to happen. So that is, to me, an absolute illusion of control. Somehow, I've got more knowledge than you, and I've got more knowledge than the other people who are betting. And often they're supporting another team, and I'm going to make money out of this because I'm an expert.
So the people who are doing the betting, your Manchester United fan or arguably your Kaizer Chiefs fan who have the same problem, they are betting with their heart. What are the bookmakers doing?
Yeah, and so I think that's maybe where we need to have perspective. When you're putting money somewhere, and this is the money show, so and understand what you do with your money, and if you're investing, the job is to explain to you what you're doing with your money, whether you're buying a share or a unit trust. In this instance, when you're committing money to a bet, you're given odds. So someone's saying to you, if you put down, just for argument's sake, 150 Rand, on a team winning, then I will pay you out your 150 Rand plus 100 Rand, just as an example. Now, they're not giving you those odds in the hope that they're going to lose money. They're giving you those odds in the hope that they're going to make money. And the way that they calculate those odds is rather sophisticated. They're not just fans. These are companies that employ very sophisticated algorithms built by data science mathematicians. They research their market incredibly deeply. They will research things that you and I can't even conceive that would relate to a sport. Forget about just the weather, but all the other conditions in the world that possibly could impact the outcome of a game. They will be studying and feeding that into their algorithms to give them the chances of a team coming up with a result, whether it's a win, a draw, whatever the deal is. On the other hand, what we've got is our belief that in our skill set and maybe our friendship circle or whatever we've read on social media, and then we place our bet. Now, in most instances, the odds are going to favor the person giving you the odds. In other words, the data scientists and the mathematicians. And so you are relying on luck to win and to make money out of that. If that's true, then you need to be very careful about how you're going to place those bets, and do you understand these odds correctly? And I think that's where a lot of this can go wrong for people. If you're betting against a very sophisticated business, they're not cheating you. They've given you the odds. Everything you need to know about the deal is known before the time. What you should be very honest and humble enough to say is that the likelihood is that they're going to win. If I put this money down, they're not giving me these odds because they think I'm going to win. And I think a lot of people make that mistake, and they still hope they're going to win.
Okay, but at times, I can hear the argument, at times I do win. And doesn't that mean that I know what I'm doing?
It does, but now we need to get back to behavioral science, to a little bit of psychology. So what happens, and it happens with investing as well. When people choose individual shares, or they choose cryptos, or they choose currency markets or derivatives or anything where prices can move very quickly, when they make an investment decision or a bet, and in this instance we're talking about betting, and their bet lands correctly as they thought it would, then they will give you a very good reason as to why they won. And if it's me and I say, I think the Springboks are going to thrash Ireland on Saturday, and here are all the reasons. And if I'm lucky enough that that's exactly what happens, I will be the Sunday morning hero, and I'll give you all the reasons as to why that worked out that way. However, if I make the same prediction and I bet money and things go wrong, we get 2 red cards and the weather's terrible and something happens and someone gets injured, then I would put that down to bad luck. It won't be because I made a mistake. And that's psychology. It's not that, suddenly I'm crazy. That's simple psychology. We remember our bets with fondness, and we tend to forget our bets where we were wrong, and we start to blame that on other factors. It couldn't possibly be us. And over time, if we bet consistently, week after week over a 6 or 7 match series, and we're right twice, we'll remember those wins and we'll forget the losses. A year from now, we'll only remember the wins. And if we're betting consistently, that's pretty dangerous, because now we start to believe in our skill and not the element of luck.
Okay, so, and isn't this the problem, is that you remember the wins, and that's really strong psychological. It's like, strong psychologically, it's like when people remember being young, and they hear music from when they were young and they think the world was better. In South Africa, the world was not better. And yet people really believe it because of where they were at the time. They were young. It's the same kind of thing. You remember that rush of victory, and you don't really remember anything else.
Exactly, and so we my favorite phrase to people who were lucky enough to choose a share that did incredibly well is, don't confuse luck and skill. And so when you're betting, you are absolutely riding on the element of luck. And so when you are lucky enough to win, you need to make sure that you win with humility and understand that you were lucky. and that you don't have some special insight that now makes you way better than tens of thousands of other people and data scientists and very sophisticated computers and algorithms, etc. You were lucky. And that's okay. I'm not a critique. It's just that you need to remind yourself that you are doing something for entertainment, and that's not that you have a special skill. There might be the very few people who are mathematical geniuses and can work out odds to the thousandth percent of a fraction of a percent and figure out that sometimes the odds are wrong. And that might happen in very rare instances. But for the very vast majority of us, even those that studied maths at school and university, we're always going to be lucky when we win. And we need to know that, especially when we then start to accumulate those losses.
Okay, there are also, I suppose, in everything, but particularly in this, some real costs. And it's not just about the money that you lose.
Yeah, and I've noticed, in the kind of broader media world now, kind of commentary around sports betting and what's being done with money, and so the job here is for people to understand what is it costing you. If you're listening to this and you are one of those people that says, I don't mind, I'm happy to put in 500 Rand a month, and it's just a little flutter and it's a bit of fun. If you're in a strong financial position and 500 Rand a month is not making your credit card debt worse and help, getting the big personal loans and overdrafts, etc., then good for you. Carry on. And the context of that is it's money that you're prepared to spend on a coffee, and you're not doing it on a coffee, you're now doing it on sports betting. But if you are in financial trouble and you've got debt compounding against you, work out that 500 Rand a month is actually getting you to 6,000 Rand a year. And that 6,000 Rand a year, what could you have done with it? Could that have got you out of the debt hole that you're in at the moment? I think a lot of the time I call it the small bet trap. So, I'm just going to take a quick flutter. I noticed the other day on my phone, Stephen, that now in my banking app, I can take a flutter on sports betting sites with small amounts of money. Now, do 50 Rand here and there. And if you do that every week, suddenly $50, which doesn't feel like a lot on its own, is 2,600 Rand a year. But 500 Rand a week gets you to 26,000 Rand a year. That becomes really meaningful money. And we break it up into those small amounts to make it seem palatable, to make it seem, that it's not such a big deal. And for people in this space, that's the point. Are you in a trap of betting here where you're fooling yourself, an element of self-delusion, thinking that it's not such an expensive thing for me to do? Because that's the number you need to work out is, what is this over a year?
Warren Ingram is the co-founder of Galileo Capital. We're talking about sports betting versus investing. And a question that's come through from Luke for you, Warren. My daughter is starting university next year. We didn't save enough in an education policy. Should we take out a student loan, or should I borrow against my house because the interest rate is lower? We'll have an answer for you from Warren in a moment.
The Money Show. Personal Finance with Warren Ingram.
Warren Ingram is co-founder at Galileo Capital. 8 minutes to 7. Luke's question, Warren. My daughter's starting varsity next year. We don't have an education policy. Should we take out a student loan, or should I borrow against my house because the interest rate is lower? And student loans normally have quite a low interest rate, but we all know, Warren, usually your cheapest finance is in your bond.
I like the idea of using a student loan if you're, as a parent, are saying, I want my child to, in this instance, Luke's daughter, if Luke wants his daughter to have some responsibility, a shared responsibility for her university education, and feel that responsibility, then a student loan becomes quite a good way to help them learn the world of finance, but with some training wheels. Because when we've got a student loan, the student will sign the loan, but that loan doesn't get given without the parent signing surety. and that means that the parent is going to be on the hook for that money if the student doesn't repay that money when it's due. And sometimes these student loans do offer a bit of a lower interest rate, and often they're a little bit more generous around when you start repaying the loan. It might be that you're only due to pay the loan after your varsities are finished, your studies are finished, and you've started working. And so if you as a parent want, or maybe financially you need your child to take some responsibility for their education costs, then a student loan might be the way. But very often, parents do want their kids to get through university without the burden of a student loan, and if they can afford to help them, then using money in your home loan is not a bad idea. As Luke says, the interest rate is probably pretty good relative to credit cards and all those things. And yes, you control you control what gets paid, but obviously you're always on the hook for that money as the homeowner, and then just knowing that you've prolonged the home loan repayment period on your home loan. So yes, if you've got accessible money in your bond and you want to take responsibility entirely for your child's education, then yes, I don't mind the home loan as a good option. It's certainly way better than putting down money from a credit card or something like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, yes, always credit cards, your sort of last resort. All right, so sports betting, I mean, what are some of the red flags? What are some of the signs that if you see this, if you see yourself doing this, actually this is a problem?
Yeah, a couple of quick ones. So I think the thing about chasing your losses, that phrase, I'll win it back. If you're down, and this happens to gamblers and sports bettors alike, if you've lost 1,000 rand and actually you realize that 1,000 rand was desperately needed for the month end, the mistake to make here is you don't then go and take a bet of more money to try and make up that 1,000 rand, because in this instance you might need to bet $1,500 to get back your 1,000 rand. All good and well if your bet wins, but remember you're in the hole because your bets were losing you money. And so if you now bet another 1,500 to try and win back the 1,000 you've lost, you could be in a situation where you've lost 2,500 rand, and then your hole is just deeper and deeper and deeper. So just to understand, this I'll win it back, chasing your losses is just not a way to work on this. It means that you should realize that you're going down a path you need to stop. Some of the other warning signs for me are, are you betting money that's actually needed to pay for electricity or to pay for rent or to buy food? Because if you are, that should be a major red flag. And people are doing that. There are people out there that are in that situation. And then maybe if you're a little bit ashamed to talk to your family, to talk to your life partner about this, that's a sign. You might have an issue here. You might have a problem. And transparency and being clear, is means maybe you've got this. You don't have a problem. You've got it under control. But if you're ashamed about this, that's a real sign to you that you can't. You might have an issue and you can't share that with people. And then maybe the last one is are you much more focused on winning a bet than watching the game that you're interested in? Back to our example of the soccer fans. If you're much more emotionally invested in the bet and being right on a bet than actually just watching your favorite team play their game, it could be a red flag. And again, money's involved here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I really like the idea of the issue of if you're betting with bill for money where you need to pay for your bills or you just need to win one. I mean, that sort of hunger for it, that becomes quite difficult. Is there a particular one single action you could take that might just sort of reveal all, if you like?
If some of these red flags that I've alluded to are there for you and you're struggling with this, maybe you're just realizing that you're struggling with this, then can you go for a month without placing a bet and just let that money accumulate in a savings account or pay down some debt? And if you can, just see what that does for you. See what it does to your emotional state, to your stress levels, obviously to your financial position, and get yourself out of that debt issue. And when you can do sports betting for fun and for entertainment and not to get by because of one of these red flags, then by all means go back to it. But don't do this. Don't carry on and keep betting month after month or week after week if you're raising some of these red flags for yourself.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good advice. Just try and see what happens if you stop for a month, and then if it's fine, you can go back. But just try and see it. And I think that often just that time, gives people a lot of incentive. I know so many people who've stopped smoking by keeping one cigarette and saying, if I need it, I can have it. It's there. And somehow it gives them the strength to not go back. It's a very interesting thing. Warren, thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate it. Personal Finance with Warren Ingram. He's the co-founder of Galileo Capital.